Hey everybody, how you doing? How's your internet? So, a couple nights ago, the Blue Jays lost in the first game of a 4-game set in Seattle, 8-3. I didn't upload a video for reasons, but honestly, I might not have bothered to do so anyway. I mean, I probably would have, but honestly, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. It was pretty foregone. This game seriously gave me flashback to the pandemic year when we're running out guys like Chris Rowley and Jacob Wagaspack and calling it a plan. This was not the Blue Jays nostalgia I'd had in mind for this year. But yeah, it turns out that a random reliever that we got off of Pittsburgh for nothing isn't very good. And call me crazy, but a guy who's been part of 3 different organizations in the last 4 years and spent a year in Japan, seriously, that's pretty close to Rafael Dolis's resume. Turns out that guy isn't very good either. Yeah, Wagaspack and Rowley weren't it, and I'm starting to think that Banda and Lawrence aren't it either. Then last night, a pretty solid effort from Chicken Strip himself, Ross Stripling, giving up only 2 runs over the course of his, I think, 5 innings. And then the bullpen was entirely firm when it was the real bullpen. It is entirely appropriate that when Sergio Romo, a retread who hasn't been very good in a couple years, he makes fun of himself for throwing 87. He has 1 pitch. You know what's coming. If you hit it, that's great. You're going to hit it a long way. And Eugenio Suarez hit it a long way. It's entirely appropriate that Sergio Romo, our latest retread, there to try to soak up some innings in an organization with no pitching depth, it's entirely appropriate that he gives up a 3-run dong in extra innings. Boy, that was a troublesome one, right? Mostly because we're back to this thing where the Blue Jays can't hit with runners in scoring position. 2 runs on 12 hits. That's a yikes. So the Blue Jays now have dropped the first 2 games in a 4-game set against Seattle, which is basically home games because it's more than half Blue Jays fans in there as far as I can tell. This is after they dropped 2 of 3 against the basement-dwelling Oakland Athletics. This is after they let a 2-0 series lead slip away to lose a series 3-2 at home against Tampa Bay. The Blue Jays suck right now with a capital suck. So, like, on big picture side, we're 5 games over 500, so no one throws in the towel when your team's 5 games over 500. You certainly don't do it when you're still clinging to a playoff spot, however temporarily. You certainly don't, I mean, even last night, Boston and Tampa both lost as well, so it's not even like we lost any real ground there. It's just, I can't look at this team as currently constructed. I can't look at this pitching staff in particular as currently constructed and say, this is a team that's ready to win the World Series. Like, not just at the major league level. Organizationally, the pitching depth just isn't there right now. You can give me all the names you want from high A and low A and guys who just got promoted to double A, but they're not ready for prime time. They're not ready to help this team right now. And the guys who might have expected to be around to help the big league club this year, Tommy Hatch, Nate Pearson, Casey Lawrence, Ryan Barucki, who won the game against us last night because we just can't hit him even though he's bad, and we know he's bad, and we know exactly what he throws, and why couldn't we hit him, and oh my god. Yeah, anyway, all these guys that were on the depth chart of guys who could help out this year, super cannot. The guy who I'm mostly disappointed in is Tommy Hatch, man. Like, 2 years ago, we were talking about him as a legitimate rotation option. Now, he's barely hanging on in AAA. Like, it's sad, man. And Matt Gage is a nice story, and Trent Thornton's return to vague competence is a nice story. But these are not the guys who are going to help you when it counts. These are guys who maybe will help you get over this hump. But right now, no, this ain't it, man. This ain't it. And when I said in previous videos that help has to come from outside the organization, I did not mean of the dumpster diving variety. Anthony Banda, Sergio Romo, these guys are not the option. Brad Peacock is going to make an appearance for the Blue Jays. You just know it. I saw that the Red Sox just caught Hansel Robles. Does that scream like a Blue Jays dumpster dive kind of thing? Because it kind of does to me. And if and when it happens, it will be a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. It's really not the answer. It's not even supposed to be the answer. It's just trying to eke out an inning here, an inning there, hoping that the offense can carry you. An offense that can't hit with runners in scoring position, by the way. You're hoping that the offense can carry you enough until you get to the point where you feel like you can make a major move. At least that's how I hope this is going to go down. I have to believe that Ross Atkins is burning down the phone lines, the landlines at Rogers Center, because obviously the cell phones aren't going to work. But I hope he is burning down the phone lines at Rogers Center, trying to find a big-time starting pitcher, whether that's Frankie Montas when he gets healthy, whether that's Luis Castillo, who's turned it around, had a nice stretch last little while, whether that's Pablo Lopez out of Miami. I don't care where, but you Like, he's got to be out there dangling a Relvis Martinez plus or whatever it takes to get one of these arms into the big league rotation, because what we got ain't enough. And, like, let's be serious here. A lot of this panic that's happened in the last little bit has come about as a result of one of our starting pitchers going down. That's Kevin Gausman getting hit on the foot with a comebacker. That could have been so much worse. It looks like he's only going to miss one start, and maybe not even that much. He might even just have one of his starts pushed back. That would be insanely lucky if that's how it goes down. But the fact that this team is being held like it's... Honestly, right now, there are three players that are holding this team together. They are Alek Manoah, obviously, he's our goddamn ace. Kevin Gausman has been great. Despite that little hiccup where he was tipping his pitches, he has rebounded nicely. He's still great. Ross Stripling has turned in yeoman work and turned into a very reliable 4th, 5th style starter. He's not going to give you more than 5, maybe 6 innings every once in a while, but honestly, that is so valuable for this team right now. And then Alejandro Kirk, who's just quietly hitting above 300, and actually mild props to Lourdes Gurriel, who is taking some heat for throwing a ball over his own wall there and kind of like gifting a home run to whatever, man. That we weren't going to win that game anyway. Everyone get off him. He's still hitting 300. He's one of our best hitters. Without him, we'd be sunk. Let's be serious. But you're talking about 4 or 5 guys on this team that are really holding things together, trying to overcompensate for the fact that a lot of key players on this team have taken big steps back this year. The most obvious candidate for that descriptor is Jose Barrios, who when he came over in the trade last summer, he was electric dynamite for his time as a Blue Jay, enough to the point where, along with his previous resume of 2 All-Star game appearances, he was given this massive contract, and now he is a sub-replacement level pitcher, and that's simply not good enough. Talent tantalizes, and you know he can do it because he does it often enough to keep you on the line, but he doesn't do it often enough for his contract, that's for damn sure. But the big ones are Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. We have just enough of a timeline, of a history of success with these guys that we blithely assumed that they would provide all-star or near all-star level of production. And don't tell me that Vlad and Bo are or were all-stars. Don't give me that. That is online voting. That is as close to nonsense as you can get. Neither of them have performed to the level that you would expect. Teoscar Hernandez has taken a big step back. George Springer has quietly taken a big step back. Matt Chapman has kind of been as advertised, but on the lower end of as advertised. Honestly, outside of Gurriel and Kirk, no one is really, and Santiago Espinal, I should give him some props there. But other than those 3 guys, no one is really outperforming what we expected, right? And a bunch of guys are seriously underperforming. So what we have is an enormously talented team largely playing under its potential at 5 games over 500 clinging to a playoff spot. Yeah, that sounds about right. So we're honestly looking at the prospect of hoping that Gausman gets back to health very quickly so that he only misses a start or maybe 2 starts, hoping that a guy like Max Castillo or Casey Lawrence can soak up enough innings for us to limp into the All-Star break, for management to be able to reassess, decide what we really need, and figure out how you're going to get it. Because the other option, and we're honestly getting pretty close to looking at this possibility too, is management just deciding, maybe we wait till next year. I mean, George is still under contract. Vlad and Bo are still relatively cheap. You'll have to re-sign Teoscar, but after a down year, that actually might be a little bit cheaper. You'll still have Espinal's here. Still, Gurriel's going to be still here. Chapman's going to be here for another year. You still have Biggio. It's like, you maybe wait till next year. But when you sign a guy like George Springer, who is already north of 30, to a big money contract to be your star center fielder, it's not like we have a bevy of center fielders ready to kick down the door in AAA, by the way. But when you sign a guy like that, what you're saying is we want to win right now. We're bringing in a guy with a reputation for hitting when it matters in big moments. Guy who's got a World Series MVP on his resume. You bring in that guy because you want to win the World Series right the hell now. This is year 2. Maybe you get 2 more years of peak George, but after that, I think that's asking a lot to get peak center fielder George Springer after that. I honestly think that's a fool's errand to expect that. So you want to punt on one of these years of George Springer? You want to punt on another year of cheap Alek Manoah? That guy's going to need the moon to re-sign, and he should because he's an ace. I don't think you built this team with the idea that you might have to punt in 2022. And I understand that worst case scenarios happen. Sometimes teams that were supposed to compete don't compete. That happens. Every year there's 2 or 3 of those teams. So that even wouldn't be that big of news. But the Blue Jays are not at that point yet. But the way the Blue Jays are trending and you look inside the organization, there's no one coming to save the day. There's no one who you can plug in or hope to plug in a couple of months who might be able to turn the tide internally. It's just not there. Like, the only significant bat that might come back is Danny Jansen, and that is not insignificant, but it's not like we have a hard time finding catchers who can hit anyway, right? And there's no pitching depth coming to save the day. I want to say that again. There is no pitching depth coming to save the day. There were whispers of Yosver Zulueta maybe potentially being ready for prime time sometime late this year. No, I don't think so. This guy's turning himself into a blue chip arm for this organization. You don't want to rush that. You don't want to mess that up, because you are still going to need him in 2023, 2024, whenever it ends up being. You don't want to sink the rest of his career to try to push him to get up right now. We've seen that happen lots of times. We don't want that to happen in this case. But what it means is Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, if you guys want to save 2022, and it does need saving, I want to put that out there right now. This is not a team in its current form that can figure it out and get it together. No, it can't. You only go as far as your pitching can take you, and we simply don't have enough. So, Ross and Mark, if you're watching, you're not, but if you were watching, you got to make a move, man. At some point in the near future, I'm talking near future, we need a big arm, and we need it soon. Whether that's one of the three candidates I talked about earlier, whether that's raiding a team like Kansas City or Baltimore for their bullpen arms, whether that's trying to find an upgrade of left-handed bat or someone else who can hit middle of the order to break up the parade of righties. Lots of different options have been presented here and in lots of other places. It's not like you don't have ideas. But whatever it is your plan is, whatever you're hoping to execute, you got to get it done now, because we are watching a slow and sometimes not so slow bleed out of all the positive momentum that this team has. Any kind of leeway that this team had, any kind of like runway, any kind of cushion, that's all gone now. We are in the thick of the fight and in the back of the thick of the fight. So, tonight, it's Alek Manoah, our ace, without whom this season would be absolutely sunk, trying to get a win in this series before we turn to Max Castillo, presumably for Game 4, hoping that the bats wake up enough to get enough runs to squeak out a series split. That's what we're looking at. That's best case scenario right now. Last night was the stinger because Chicken Strip did everything he should have and could have to get to that point. Your real relievers got you through 10 innings, and then we had to turn it over to Scrub Romo because we didn't have anybody else. And if that's not emblematic of this Blue Jays season, I don't know what is, except maybe only getting 2 runs on 12 hits. That was pretty emblematic too. So, we'll see what happens tonight, but it feels more and more like we're approaching a tipping point. It feels more and more like we are approaching the critical time of this season. Not even because of the schedule or the record or who we're facing or anything like that. It's simply because this team very clearly doesn't have what it takes internally. We got to go out and we got to get something, and it can't be dumpster diving anymore. We have reached the limits of what that can get us. It's now time to go out and make some real moves. So, front office, it's on you. And Alek Manoah, it is definitely on you tonight. And bats, it is definitely on you guys tonight, because that was an embarrassing display last night. Honestly, it really was. That was as bad as the last Tampa game when you had all those times where the bases were loaded and you flubbed every single one. 2 runs on 12 hits. They gave you opportunities, dudes. All right, that's it. I can complain forever, but I think I've made my point. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for watching this channel. I'd be very interested and or terrified to see what happens in Manoah's start tonight. I will see you after that. Have a good night.